What is your level of excitement to kind of get this thing? I know you've been throwing
Yeah.
for a little bit, but to have it official.
Yeah,
right now.
yeah, it's nice to be back. I mean, that's the longest off season had in a little while. Felt like it went pretty quick though, but yeah, very anxious. We had that pitchers camp about 2 weeks ago, so getting to see everybody kind of get back in the baseball mode and then come out here and get with everybody under a more formal setting is nice.
I know you haven't necessarily seen there's a lot of new faces in the pitching staff. Like, what do you make of what this group is and the group that you have right now? I know there's been some talk about maybe adding, but this group of guys right now, what can you guys accomplish?
I'm super excited. I mean, you look at that Yankee trade alone, the guys we got back in there, a lot of talent in that group. Obviously not the same amount of experience as some of, the other guys around the league and their rotations, but a lot of talent, and we feel good about, some of the veteran guys we have here and the staff we have of guys to be able to, make those guys better versions of themselves.
With Michael King in particular, what have you seen from him? What's impressed you?
Yeah, I mean, everything about him. His stuff is really good. I mean, we sit and watch his bullpens, throughout spring training in that camp, and if you don't see what pitch is coming, it's hard to decipher it until it's right at the plate. So very deceptive, a little bit of cross-body motion, can make the ball go different directions. He's got really good stuff. His mentality's really good. Coming from the Yankees and playing under some of the guys that he played with and learning from, guys like Garrett and Tyone and Montgomery, he's got a lot of experience for a guy with as little time as he has in the big leagues. So super excited for him.
I think you anticipated your offseason was going to be about normal. What was it like?
Yeah, a little slow getting going. I really, with the extra time we had, tried to take advantage of that downtime and heal up the injuries and, some of the ailing things, in those first few weeks. And, from about mid-October, early November on, I felt, pretty close to 100%. So.
And now, just ready to...
I feel great now. Now it's just, there's always a little bit more of a workload when you show up to spring. The throwing doesn't necessarily increase, but, how often you're off the mound goes up a little bit. Being in spikes all day is a thing that a lot of guys don't experience in the off season. Your PFPs, all those things come into play. So really the first week or two, just trying to manage, your body and the workload.
Have you approached it any different, be it starting early or ramping up with the season starting and presuming that you would be pitching in Korea?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of went into the plan from the start of the offseason, knowing that this was going to be a trip we were taking and we'd have a little less time in spring. You try not to, speed things up, but you try to allow yourself a little more time on the front end to prep and build up. So feel good.
What are the logistics of prepping for 2 games across the world and earlier than
I worked my deload weekend a little bit later in the off season. I gave myself time to get built up and see some hitters and do some lives back home before we came out here, and then kind of take a deload coming into camp so that I can still be fresh, but have already touched on all the things I wanted to touch on before getting here. So I feel like I'm in a good spot, and obviously it's you never know until you're out there doing it. So I feel like this was the right move, but we'll see how it plays out.
Have you been to Asia?
What's that?
You been to Asia before?
No, it's my first trip. It's pretty cool. I mean, baseball's taken me a lot of places, and in the last 2 years, getting to go to Mexico City and now Korea is pretty exciting.
What's it been like, working with Mike so far as manager? I mean, you guys have had some manager changes here over the years, but so far with him.
He's great. I mean, the last 2 years, I've gotten to sit, side by side on the bench with him and talk baseball. He's a baseball rat, man. I mean, the guy's, got a lot of experience. Grew up in AA clubhouse and, from 9 years old, and coached at every level along the way. So he's got a good feel for the game, but he knows how to manage people and how to, get the most out of his players. So we've had, multiple dinners. We've sat down and talked quite a bit. We're in constant communication about how we can make things easier on the guys and how we can make it more productive. And he's just been really open to kind of hearing what the players have to say.
Was that change there surprising to you? I mean, AJ Preller came out after the season, said Bob's going to be our manager, and then a few weeks later, he's off to the Giants.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, everything seemed a little up in the air at the end. That's kind of outside of our control, so you try not to worry about it too much. But yeah, you're a little curious going into the offseason, not knowing who's going to be running the show the following year. But whether it be Bob or Schilt or any of the new options, it's the reality of what you're in, so you make the most of it. But it was pretty easy going for us.
Considering last season, having a new manager, what do you hope as a whole this team's mentality is during spring training and heading towards opening day?
Yeah, I think we need to do a better job of identifying what our identity is as a team. From the get-go of spring training, I felt like we had expectations of what we expected of ourselves as a group, and it wasn't talked openly and out loud enough for everybody to understand what that was. So we found ourselves in a little bit of a hole early on, and trying to find your identity when your back's against the wall is a little difficult. So I think we need to set the tone early on in spring training and figure out what those things are that we're gonna what the standards are here, and make sure everyone's on the same page.
Is it a completely different feeling from a year ago? I mean, there was so much hype and expectations from day one of spring training.
Yeah.
Does it feel like spring training you started, but does it feel different?
It feels good. I mean, Schilt's done a really good job of starting those first steps of building the foundation of the team and what our identity is going to be. So ultimately, I think communication is one of the biggest things. As players, you don't want to feel like you're being told everywhere you're going to be and what you're going to do. It's nice to feel like you have a little bit of say in that, but ultimately you want somebody at the top that's running the show that takes a leadership role, and everyone kind of falls in line behind him, makes things a little bit easier.
Because the others had those expectations now. Was that tough to live with last year just because it was so much hype around this team?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately it falls in our hands as players. We're the ones out there that have the opportunity to win and lose games. Obviously, your manager can put you in better situations and give you the best opportunity, but when you're out there, you got to go out and do your job. And we fell short in meeting some of those expectations and doing some of the small things that allow us to be in the positions to succeed.
The team just revealed the jersey patch you're going to wear in honor of Peter Sadler this season. What kind of reminder do you think that's going to be throughout the year?
Yeah, I mean, Peter did a lot for the city of San Diego, for the Padres organization. I mean, baseball's the most exciting it's been in San Diego in a long time. So Peter's the guy that we owe a lot of that credit to. So a really difficult offseason for a lot of people, but it gives you that added motivation and drive going into this year to do it for a little more than us.
What was your relationship with him like?
It was really good. He was the most involved owner that I've been a part of or been around. And again, the communication kind of started with him. He was very good at communicating to his players, and not just the baseball side of things, but the impact that he wanted to make in the community, through his players. He wanted us to be involved, be engaged in the community, and he made it very easy for you to have opportunities to do that.
News of his passing, I assume that was a huge surprise for you and all the other guys.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of speculation about where his health was at. We didn't see him much down the second half of the season. He was very often in the clubhouse, or at least around for guys to see. So we were curious of what his health was, but yeah, it was a little bit of a shock when it happened, as suddenly as it did. You always want that chance to just say your last bit before he goes and see him one more time, but we understood what he was going through, what his family was going through, and we just kind of ultimately wanted to be there as much as we could to support and provide a little relief for his family.
I think you alluded to this a little bit earlier, but having grown up in San Diego, being a Padres fan your entire life, but just how different was he as an owner than any other owner you'd seen?
Yeah, I mean, he did what everyone in San Diego wanted us to do for a long time, and he started that journey off, and we're going to do everything we can to finish it for him.
Joe, is it a strange feeling? There are still so many holes on this roster. And last year you came in, everything is filled. I think you only have 2 outfielders in your 40-man roster. Is it strange thinking, okay, this is what's going to happen here?
Yeah, I mean, you look at it on paper, it is a little bit, but I mean, I got a lot of faith in AJ. That guy does things that not a lot of people do, and he is very well thought out. So I know he's not going into this thing, knowing that we need 2 players without the plan in place. So, you try as a player not to worry about that stuff. That's kind of his job, but we got faith in him that he's going to put the right people in the right spots. And we got a lot of young talent. There's opportunities here, and I think that's good for these young guys to come into camp feeling like there is an opportunity for them to earn a starting spot and be in that opening day, group of guys. So.
Just to be sure, I think you were going to get some imaging at the end of the season after you guys got back.
Yeah.
Did that reveal anything? Get any clarity there on the shoulder?
Yeah, we got a couple of MRIs throughout the offseason, and every time we went in, a few weeks apart from each other, things were improving and getting better and better. With the last one we saw, it looked really good. Everything was looking right, and I got clearance from the docs to move forward, 100% with the offseason training. So.